Joints. Definition. Joints are the area where one bone articulates with another bone or more than one bone articulating. Classification of joints. Joints may be classified according to function and according to structure. Functional classification. It is based on the degree of mobility of the joint. That is, the joints are classified based on the degree of mobility of the joint. It is of three types: synarthrosis, amphiarthrosis and diarthrosis. Synarthrosis, that means no movements are possible in this type of joint. Example, sutures. Amphiarthrosis, slightly movable joints. Example, secondary cartilaginous joints. Diarthrosis, freely movable joint. Example, synovial joints. Structural classification. It is based on the type of connective tissue and presence or absence of joint cavity. According to structure, the joints may be classified into fibrous joint, cartilaginous joint and synovial joint. Fibrous joint. In this type of joint, the two articular ends are connected by dense fibrous connective tissue. It is of three types. Number one, suture. This type of joints are found in skull bones. Example, sagittal suture, coronal suture, lambdoid suture. Sagittal and coronal suture belongs to serrate type, whereas the lambdoid suture belongs to denticulate type. Number two, gophosis. In this type, a peg-like structure fits into a socket. A peg-like structure fits into a socket and it is strongly supported by a connective tissue fiber. So example, tooth and its socket, and it is firmly connected by periodontal ligament. Number three, syndesmosis. In this type, the two bones are connected by fibrous dense connective tissue in the form of interosseous ligament or membrane. Example, intermediate radio-ulnar joint, intermediate tibiofibular joint and inferior tibiofibular joint. Cartilaginous joint. In this type, the two articular ends are connected by a piece of cartilage. Either it is hyaline or fibrocartilage. The cartilaginous joint is of two types. Number one, primary cartilaginous joint. Number two, secondary cartilaginous joint. Primary cartilaginous joint. In this type, the two articular ends are connected by a piece of cartilage which is of hyaline type. This cartilage is later replaced by bone. So, it is present only during a certain period of life. It does not persist throughout life. Example, union between epiphysis and diaphysis of growing long bone. Joint between basi occiput and basi sphenoid. And first costosternal joint. Secondary cartilaginous joint. In this type, the two articular ends are separated by a piece of cartilage which is fibrocartilage in nature, and it persists throughout life. Example, pubic symphysis, that is between the two pubic bones, intervertebral disc, and mandibulosternal joint. Synovial joint. The synovial joint is the joint with cavity which is lined by synovial membrane. General features: it has an outer covering known as capsule which gives protection for the joint. The inner aspect of the capsule is lined by synovial membrane which secretes synovial fluid. Presence of joint cavity. The articular ends are lined by articular cartilage which is of hyaline type. The synovial membrane which secretes synovial fluid acts as a lubricant for the joint. Classification of synovial joints. Number 1, ball and socket variety. In this, one of the articular surfaces is spherical or round which fits into a socket. Example, shoulder joint, hip joint, talocalcaneonavicular joint. Number 2, hinge variety. In this type, one of the convex articular surface articulates with the concave articular surface of another bone. Okay. It resembles the hinge of the door. There are only two movements possible in this joint. Example, elbow joint, interphalangeal joint, and ankle joint. Condyloid variety. In this, one of the articular end is condyle shape which articulates it into a concave surface. Example, temporomandibular joint and knee joint. Ellipsoid variety. In this type of joint, one of the convex elliptical surface articulates with the concave elliptical surface of the another bone. Example, wrist joint, first metacarpophalangeal joint, first metatarsophalangeal joint, and atlanto-occipital joint. Pivot variety. In this type of joint, one of the articular end is peg-like or cone-like structure which articulates within a ring formed by partially by the bone and partially by the ligament. Example, superior and inferior radial joint, median atlanto-axial joint. Saddle variety. In this type of joint, one of the articular surfaces saddle shape, that is seat of a horse, and another articular surface is that of a rider sitting on the saddle, that is the legs of a rider sitting on the saddle. Example, sternoclavicular joint, calcaneocuboid joint, and first carpo-metacarpal joint, and joint between the femur and patella. Plane variety. In this, the two articular surfaces are smooth and plane, and it glides over each other. Example, superior tibiofibular joint, acromioclavicular joint, intercarpal joint, intermetacarpal joint, and intermetatarsal joints. Thank you.